McGraw-Hill Ascent Audio presents The Sales Agility Code. Deploy Situational Fluency to Win More Sales by Michelle Vazana, Ph.D., and Lisa Sottosanti Doyle. Narrated by Rosemary Benson. Publisher's Note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to figures and tables present in the print and ebook formats of the book. Introduction: the death of the one-size-fits-all approach and the birth of an agile era. Every sales author claims to share the one best way to sell that is far superior to all others. You've likely read at least one book on consultative selling, perhaps another on developing an effective value proposition, yet another on value selling. The landscape of sales experts is vast. If you are listening to this book, you have most likely been through several sales training programs that have claimed to be the best. You likely took something useful out of each one, but none of them were revolutionary. This search for the best way to sell has befuddled salespeople and sales leaders for years. And now we know why. Research has revealed that a one-size-fits-all approach to selling is doomed to fail. In fact, any given sales approach has been shown to be effective approximately 25% of the time. The best salespeople do not use one set path. They choose a path based on the buying situations they face. Sales agility is defined as the ability to assess and make sense of the situation an individual is facing, choosing the best path forward aligned to the situation, and then planning and executing the chosen path. In a nutshell, sales agility represents good decision-making that leads to effective execution in sales and other domains. This will be the first book to detail the decisions the best sellers make as they navigate sales opportunities. In other words, we will explore how salespeople understand what is unique about the buyer's situations, how they select the best sales path forward, and how they execute this approach to increase the chances of a win. We won't make bold claims based on our own experience as supersellers. We will share real research based on what real high-performing sellers do and how to replicate it. The purpose of this book is to disrupt conventional wisdom regarding sales effectiveness and sales enablement. For over 50 years, sales and learning leaders have attempted to find the best sales methodology to implement with their sales force. And for over 50 years, this approach has tied the hands of sellers and irritated potential buyers. These attempts at standardization are crippling today's salespeople because they don't reflect the reality of the buyers they face, reducing the percentage of sellers at quota by more than 20%. By focusing on sales agility, sellers can get a more accurate read of their buyer's situation, select the strategy that is most likely to lead to a win, and dramatically improve overall performance. Our research at VantagePoint confirms that sales agility is the most accurate representation of high-performer behavior. In this book, we will share what we have learned through VantagePoint's extensive research. We are committed to performing challenging research, asking the hard questions, and getting inside the nitty-gritty details so that salespeople and sales managers can embrace and deploy effective sales agility. Our quantitative studies of high-performing salespeople and sales managers have teased out the nuances that separate the best from the rest. We will detail the scope and findings of this research in Chapter 2. VantagePoint takes these insights and builds frameworks to replicate what high performers do day in and day out. These frameworks translate to step-by-step processes for equipping sellers to embrace sales agility to improve sales performance. Our best-selling books, Cracking the Sales Management Code, The Secrets to Measuring and Managing Sales Performance, and Crushing Quota, Proven Sales Coaching Tactics for Breakthrough Performance, have revolutionized the way sales managers manage. We've taken the very complex job of sales management and made it accessible to everyone. Because of our research and our findings, sales managers now have a simple yet powerful way to ensure that their sellers are executing the right activities, to coach those activities to ensure effective and consistent execution, and to assess leading indicators of success. As an important extension to that work, we are revolutionizing the way salespeople sell. Organizations across the globe have benefited from our research and highly executable frameworks, and you can too. When you consume and apply the content of this book, you won't have to worry that you are being sold the next best idea. Our research findings are outlined inside this book, and they are accessible to you. You'll learn the implications for agile selling and some executable frameworks for selling, all based on what we've uncovered about how the best salespeople win more sales. What might surprise you is that it is not overly complicated. While many other sales frameworks and methodologies are very complex, we offer the minimum effective dose. Why? Because simplicity matters. More is almost never better, certainly as it pertains to sales and sales management. Just ask busy salespeople if they'd like one more sales tool. They will run away quickly, very quickly. When we say simplicity matters, we are not implying that selling is easy. In fact, we acknowledge that it is a very hard profession with almost unlimited nuances. What we know from our research and experience is that better decision-making leads to better execution. And the best salespeople are disciplined decision-makers. Period. They favor conscious choices over quick assumptions, which helps them avoid the traps that ensnare other sellers. Salespeople who are agile don't wait until they have all the answers before moving forward. They gather enough information to make informed decisions, and then they act. They don't let the desire for perfection paralyze their selling efforts. This doesn't mean they are hasty. In fact, the most successful salespeople spend more time initially assessing their buyers, making a logical approximation of what they are facing, choosing the approach that fits, and then executing. What this means is that they are more likely to make good choices and not have to backtrack and fix costly mistakes. The highest performing salespeople have mental models that help them narrow the field of play, reducing unnecessary complexity in their opportunity pursuit. This allows them to make the sales task more manageable by putting it into bite-sized chunks and not overcomplicating it. As sales expertise increases, it becomes simpler for these high-performing sellers to make and implement effective decisions. The assessment and decision-making process becomes part of their sales muscle memory. The mindset of simplicity doesn't mean execution is easy. It means that execution is aligned to the situation. The highest performing salespeople aren't just great decision makers using mental models. They also have a growth mindset. Research has revealed that high performers in every domain have a similar mindset. In her groundbreaking book, Mindset: The New Psychology of Success, Dr. Carol Dweck revealed that there are two primary mindsets: fixed and growth. A fixed mindset indicates that people believe they are who they are, and they're not going to change much. A growth mindset indicates that people believe they can change and grow. Growth mindset people are insatiably curious. They are not afraid to try new things because they are not afraid of failure. They see stumbles as necessary parts of growth, and they learn from each experience. In our interpretation, agility requires a growth mindset. To be agile, you have to be continually refining your thinking and your sales approach based on changes in the buyer situation. A growth mindset indicates that improvements can be made and performance can be improved. It requires salespeople to resist the idea that, wow, I finally got this. I don't need to learn anything new. Our approach to sales agility embodies the growth mindset by equipping salespeople to continually question their assumptions, rethink their approach, seek advice and insight from others, and never settle into one way of doing things. In this book, we will examine the elements of an agile mindset and why this mindset and associated curiosity, an indicator of a growth mindset, are necessary ingredients for mastering sales agility. Another interesting research finding on top performance in every field is that there is almost no correlation between experience and expertise. This is true in all domains, including sales. Just because salespeople have been selling for 20 years or more, it does not make them an expert. Salespeople who become experts behave differently. They challenge assumptions, reach outside of their comfort zones, and find new and more effective ways to sell. Throughout this book, we will disclose the path that the highest performing sellers follow to turn experience into expertise. So, the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to consider that one-size-fits-all selling is a myth? Or that today's informed and complex buying teams will not tolerate salespeople who try to force-fit a sales process onto their buyer's journey? Are you ready to demystify the complex job of selling and enjoy higher win rates and more satisfied buyers? Are you ready to approach your sales job with a growth mindset and rethink your approach? If so, let's begin. Part 1. Debunking the myth of the one perfect sales methodology. Chapter 1. Chaos is the new normal. Buyers are evolving. In recent years, there has been a significant shift in how buyers approach buying. Consider what happens in a typical day. We turn on our smartphones, and the notifications are tailored to us. We go on Facebook, Snapchat, or Instagram, and we see ads directly related to our preferences. Our news feeds are filtered by our viewing history. In essence, we experience a unique world designed specifically for us. This spoils us, increases our desire for highly relevant information, and lessens our tolerance for sorting through information we see as noise. These personal experiences are shaping us as buyers and creating a world of hurt for salespeople. Technology has rewritten the sales game, both directly and indirectly. The most significant direct impact of technology is that it has made available a lot of good quality information for both buyers and sellers. The plethora of available information complicates the task of buying and selling in meaningful ways. Indirectly, this explosion of information has created confusion and a shift in how buyers buy and what they want from salespeople. Few sales organizations ignore the direct consequences of technology, but it is the indirect consequences that have the most significant impact. Those who choose to ignore the indirect consequences of the technology revolution, particularly buyer confusion, do so at their own peril. The net effect of these highly curated personal buying trends is that buyers are more informed than ever before in ways that are highly relevant to their wants and needs. At the same time, buyers are less available. They don't see a need to reach out to a salesperson because much of the information they want can be obtained via websites and other informational sources. In earlier times, salespeople were the keepers of product and solution expertise. Those times are long gone. Industry analysts at Forrester estimate that 67% of the buying journey is done digitally. This creates a conundrum for sellers because buyer thinking is being shaped by sources other than the salesperson. Buyers want insight. Buyers are no longer satisfied with product or service pitches. They know about your products and services because they've examined your website. They've most likely read analyst reports that evaluate your company against competing alternatives. According to Gartner research, customers are awash in high-quality, credible information. Improvements in data analytics, content thought leadership, and sales messaging have resulted in high-quality information that informs most business-to-business purchases. You are probably thinking that this high-quality information is of enormous benefit to the buyer, right? Wrong. Again, according to Gartner, an overabundance of high-quality information is hindering the buyer's ability to make good purchase decisions. Why? Because 44% of buyers report encountering various information sources with contradictory claims. This supposedly trustworthy, yet conflicting information affects sellers negatively, reducing the chance of making a high-quality sale by 66%. It is hard for buyers to sort through what is good information and what is just noise. Buyers must learn to be more discerning about what they learn online, more critical of information. Ultimately, buyers are looking for the truth, but that truth often seems elusive, cloaked in opinions and positions that may lack validity. Buyers need to evaluate evidence, not just claims made by sellers and marketers. Many claims made by slick sales messaging are appealing, but they are not based in fact. The assertion that more information is better is false. Better information is better. Think about the last time you purchased a smartphone. You most likely got a quick start guide as well as a link to the user manual. How many of you go beyond the guide and dig into the manual? My bet is that not many of you explore or read about the nitty-gritty details of the device you bought. Having more features does not make the phone better, especially if you don't care about them. As you skim user manuals, you encounter information that matters to you and information that doesn't. Likewise, during the buying journey, buyers pivot and change in big ways throughout their process as they react to information and changing conditions. What does this mean for you as a salesperson? It means that you must focus on finding ways to increase buyer confidence and help the buyer prioritize the information that matters. The most successful sellers help their buyers make sense of the barrage of information they encounter, creating confidence and reducing skepticism. This sense-making approach builds a feeling of control in the mind of buyers, helping them interpret information and make high-quality, low-risk decisions. Traditional sales enablement efforts are failing. In the past, salespeople believed that solution expertise was the key to sales success. If I know my product thoroughly, understand the competitive landscape, and understand the customer's needs, I'm good. This leads to organizational efforts that map out the steps required to successfully sell their product or service and equip salespeople accordingly. Most organizations strive for a standardized approach to selling. Intuitively, this makes perfect sense. A standardized approach makes it easier to develop and support a diverse sales force. For many large organizations, this standardization is seen as the key to scalability and growth. Yet, this approach is no longer sufficient. Buyers demand personalization. Solution complexity continues to increase, making it nearly impossible for sellers to attain and maintain expertise in everything they sell. And because markets change so frequently, making sales enablement decisions to map the right path is often futile. Sellers need a better way of managing through the chaos of an over-informed world. The problem is not with what sales enablement has been trying to do, but in how it has been done. The desire for standardization makes sense because it promotes scalability and growth. Unfortunately, all too often, the wrong things are standardized. The focus had been on standardizing the selling process and not standardizing how we interact with the buyers on their journey. Sales enablement teams focus enablement efforts on taking buyers on the sales journey, not joining the journey the buyers are already on. Buyers are rarely interested in a seller's process. They are laser-focused on their own wants and needs. Buyers want sellers to evaluate their environment, scan the marketplace, and come to the table with an educated, valid point of view. This is not the same as an opinion. Buyers want a logical, practical analysis of their situation, a synthesis of available trends and market data, and a comparison of options that narrows the scope of their decision. The goal of this effort on the part of the salesperson is intended to simplify their buying task and build confidence in their decision. The over-engineering problem. Most large organizations adopt a particular sales methodology as a way of standardizing their sales process, ensuring rigor and discipline in the way sellers execute. They aim to provide their sellers with a map that can help them travel smoothly from qualification to closing. As part of this process, many sales leaders select the methodology that they feel best meets the needs of their sales force. Most commercially available sales methodologies are designed to work in a wide variety of circumstances, pretty much in all circumstances. Considering the marketplace chaos, the rate of change, volume of information, and unique buyer needs that sellers face in the pursuit of deals, it begins to seem short-sighted to believe that one sales methodology is enough. The reality is that these rigid methodologies don't work well in any circumstance. In fact, the highest-performing salespeople are the least likely to adopt a standardized methodology. The best sellers know that they must flex what they do to address the buyer's circumstances. Salespeople need options, different strategies for different situations. They do not need a map that becomes outdated almost as soon as it is finished. Actually, they don't need a map at all. They need a GPS. While maps detail what the landscape looked like at the time they were drawn, a GPS flexes to the current conditions. Maps are outdated tools for today's sales world. Sellers need to be able to adeptly navigate the congested and evolving buying landscape, and determine the most effective path to take to succeed. Leaning into the new sales reality. The reality that a seller-centric, highly engineered, one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work is a hard sell for many sales organizations. It flies in the face of past experiences. Even the thought of figuring out how to equip salespeople to be flexible versus following a standardized process is bewildering. Going against traditional approaches can feel risky and uncomfortable. It can feel like you're trying to buck the tide. We had one of our clients acknowledge that one-size-fits-all approaches don't work, agree that salespeople need to be agile, and then become paralyzed by the implications for sales enablement efforts. The task of allowing for variation and agility seemed too big. This same client acknowledged they knew that by standardizing on a methodology, they were marginalizing salesperson effectiveness. The change seemed too big. It is a harsh reality when leaders feel they must select mediocrity because it is easier to implement. The good news is that it is far easier to lean into agility than leaders think. The bigger risk is holding tight to something that research proves doesn't work. Technology has changed everything and has forced a rewrite of the sales game. The volume of information available to both buyers and sellers is overwhelming. Buyers approach sales differently and are more skeptical of salespeople. Buyers who feel more confident in the information they consume make bigger and bolder purchase decisions. The market shifts quickly and sometimes unpredictably. A new dynamic is afoot that we can't ignore. Let's not pretend that the marketplace is going to revert to the way it was. This is the new reality, and it requires a different set of skills to succeed. Persistence and assertiveness are the table stakes. Leaning into the chaos requires persistence and assertiveness, plus the ability to discern, move quickly, and not rest on the success of past actions. The next shift is coming quicker than we think. The agility needed to navigate this rapidly changing landscape is a new frontier, requiring a different mindset and different approach. Using traditional approaches in a vastly different sales environment is a recipe for failure. We can acknowledge that standardization is desirable, but it is effective only if we standardize the right things. The sales process should mirror the steps buyers take to acquire your solution, not just the steps sellers must take to sell the solution. So, how do we determine what should be standardized? How do we know what works and creates satisfying buying experiences and sales success? We do our research. We do our homework. We actually study high performers in depth to understand what they do and why they do it. We gather evidence. The good news is that there are patterns in how buyers behave that can be understood and applied by sellers to reduce friction in the buyer's journey and create better alignment between buying and selling efforts. The importance of evidence. Far too many sales training companies rely solely on case studies to prove the efficacy of their methodologies. They train to their specific methodology and look for evidence that it worked. In far too many cases, researchers design studies to support conclusions they've already reached. This approach to research falls into the category of confirmation bias. We believe this approach is backward and more than a bit self-serving. Effective researchers study high-performing individuals, isolate the patterns and behaviors of high performers, and develop frameworks to replicate high-performer behavior. This is true in all domains, not just sales. We are not suggesting that case studies are ineffective. We use them as well, primarily because they are interesting.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?